right? Go back over to OBS and we can get this show on the road. Right. Have you been, comrade?
Yeah, good in general. Like, you know, it was cool going on that show, basically, and it was like quite a cool experience just being on Twitter, and then goaded him into allowing me to go into his show. So I just went basically representing myself, but obviously, I was defending an animal rebellion action. And I've just had a call with some of the Animal Rebellion people, and it's like, you know, I wasn't on point with their message to a certain extent, you know, I called him an utter disgrace twice. You know, I told him he's going to face his equivalent of the
And he
Nuremberg
just had a
trials twice.
meltdown because of it. What did he say? He's like, no, because you've said I'm going to go in the Nuremberg trials. I'm going to do everything I can, like, every day to, like, discredit people like you. So, yeah, you really got to him.
Yeah, really got to him. But maybe, I didn't know the sad, so I was hoping to be, like, a spokesperson with Animal Rebellion, but, you know, in the politest terms, they're basically just like, nah, basically, they went. But, you know, so maybe I just put a bit more effort, like something like, you know, what you're doing, your own independent channel, and try and potentially do it like that. But I don't know, you know, it's not many, but I think I gained like about 40 followers on Twitter just from the thing, and which has almost doubled like the amount of people I have following me.
Most people who start platforms haven't already been on like shows with over like 300,000 followers on Twitter, so you would be off to a good start. And I wish you luck. And actually, I'm always here for like any advice. I've spent like the last fucking 2 years when I wasn't in work, just trying to network and fucking grow a fucking platform to, you know, reach people and people who need to hear what you say, really, because they're not going to fucking hear it in school or education, are they?
No. Well, and you know, and that's what I've been trying to tell people. Like honestly, it's like hundreds of people. Like I'm not joking. Like hundreds of different individual accounts. Because my Twitter feed and account and notifications is just off all the time. It just doesn't stop, and people tagging me in. And, you know, they're all calling me like an absolute idiot. And so I don't know. It obviously is a bit controversial. I've had like people of color. People of color. I'm going to put more blue tack on this. How long before we go live?
We're live, everybody. Please do not say fuck or bugger.
Are we live?
No, we're live. I just thought I'd go live because people might be waiting. I don't know. But we can go into the pod now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks once again for tuning into Revolutionary Lumpen Radio. In this episode, we're joined by a veteran, actionist, lobbyist, and general empathetic human being. They've faced off judges and magistrates. Tim Speers here has even been known to fight the law, and they won. Like, they fought the law and they won, which is rare, isn't it? So we're going to hear more about that because I know so many people are genuinely terrified of being arrested or sentenced, despite the reality that revolution, progress for that matter, is illegal. Like, it's against the law. It's made that way so we don't have it. So those of us who want to fight for the changes humanity desperately needs, or in your case, as you'd say, you know, animals of all sorts, which is, you know, absolutely, I agree with that. So those who want to fight for that, we have to accept that we are going to be challenged by the state. We might have to break the law. So Tim's going to share their abundance, decades of experience, isn't it, to give us an idea of what this can actually look like. So welcome to the pod, Tim. We're honored to have you.
Honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me here. So like you were saying, I was on. I'm not sure if you actually did say, but yeah, I was on with a like far right that changed an hour on the radio the other day. That was like 20 minutes long. You could find that on Talk TV, and that was a very stressful, quite experience. Like, he's a very intense man. He cuts you off a lot. So I'm really happy to be in a space where that I know that's not going to happen. So yeah, once again, thanks for having me here. And yeah, hopefully, we can just share some, or I'll be able to share some things that people, maybe some different perspectives on some things.
Boss, so before we actually dive in, can I ask you, I'm sure you don't mind, I mean, it's not like a fucking secret, but when is your bail up?
For our most recent one, so I've got to go back on the police station on the 25th of August.
The 28th?
25th, is it the 28th, is it? I
I
don't
don't
know.
know, I'm not sure. I think that's probably the same as mine. I'm not sure. I know mine's around the 20th. And just for context for everybody, I don't know why, but we were arrested for suspicion of causing criminal damage a couple of weeks back. Insane in a membrane, but nevertheless, we were caught. I mean, we just simply had like spray paint and jumpsuits, as it turned out. I didn't actually know, but there we are. So we'll follow up and let you know what happened with that court case, innit? But that's just one of many instances where you faced a judge. We spoke about that, and that's really what brought us to this podcast. It's just you have genuinely faced judges and magistrates, and you've even come out on top. So for like, people generally don't think that that's the case. People think that you probably might do an action or some activism, and then you'll get arrested, and then that's like their life down the fucking gutter. But that's not exactly the case, and I think we'll know more about that if we just go into the usual background question on the pod. It's a great way to get to know a guest. And so if you could just tell us a bit about your background, say any political ideology or tendency you might have, and how that emerged, that would be great, just to build and give context to who you are as a person before we dive into the rest of the subject matter. Thanks.
Problem. Always a topic I'm happy to share. So, I am currently 37 years old. I'm from this town called Launceston in Cornwall. So it's just on the border between Devon and Cornwall, North Cornwall, near Bude, not that far from Newquay. I grew up, and it was, I think, max population of like 10,000 people. So small town community. Everyone knows each other pretty much. Everyone knows each other's business. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I just didn't like that. I didn't find I like the people. I had loads of different friends in there, but I don't know. I didn't really love that aspect of it. That small town gossip. I've never really been one to gossip, and I'm just currently reading *Sapiens*, and apparently, like, that's how humanity's evolved, and in some shape or form, and the fact that we gossip. So obviously, I know that I am very different in the sense I just don't really even do that. So around like 19, doing my A levels, not really interested in them. What was it? Computer studies, psychology, and business studies. A mate of mine taught me how to play poker. So I started playing poker with him, then started playing poker in sixth form, and then I bought a book and started playing online. And then I realised, like, just with the knowledge from this one book, like, I was making decisions that were just superior to the opponents I was playing against. And realised, like, just obviously the game is a game of skill. They lose money, obviously, and it's part and parcel of it. That's why you need a bankroll to manage your money. Started making money from that, and then I just did that, and I did that for a living for just over a decade, about 12-13 years or so. I moved to London when I was like 20, and then met like a whole new group of friends, and my life was poker, gigs, go to raves, spend as much time with my friends as possible, go on holidays, go snowboarding. And I wasn't politically engaged with anything, like nothing whatsoever. I was literally in my own little bubble with my friends and that family group.
So what brought that out? How did that come about out of nowhere?
Yeah, roughly 4 years ago now, maybe a little bit over. I remember the exact date. I think it was around like So I watched Cowspiracy on Netflix, and Cowspiracy just talks about the environmental impact of animal agriculture and fishing on the planet. You know, I've always liked to think of myself as someone who, you know, wants to leave the world a better place than it was when they came into it. You know, or at least not leave it worse. And like, you know, to begin with, I suppose all you can do is your own like footprint, your own presence and stuff. So my mum, I remembered littering once. I think you know, just when I was young and not really thinking about it. My mum just like a massive go at me. So I think something like that kept in me, and you know, being environmentally conscious. Yeah, after that, watching that film, it was like Morpheus handing me whatever one it is. It's the red pill, isn't it? And it's like, oh shit, this world looks completely different. So I went from eating animal products 3 times a day, not giving a shit, like having like ordering a pizza and just ordering like you know the meat feast. To yeah, like you know, not I just not consuming it. And then I saw slaughterhouse footage. Maybe like 2 or 3 days after watching Cowspiracy. And I was like, you know, the most shocking, traumatizing stuff I've ever seen. I was like, not only am I not going to consume this and buy this, pay for it with, you know, and fund it with my money, I'm going to do everything in my power to shut it down, like, you know, eradicate it, and like, you know, the sooner the better. Then, yeah, that was my then, from that moment on, I suppose that's when I would classify myself as an activist, which was about 4 years ago. And to begin with, my activism was on just online, so like find some like local groups, some vegan groups, animal rights groups, blah blah blah. And then I come across this group called Anonymous for the Voiceless. And what they do is go out into public spaces with computer screens, laptops, phones, and on the phones it's just basically showing like animal exploitation footage, so from farms, from you know, racing, more testing, all these sort of things. And it's set in a way where basically it's like they call it like this art. It was like an art demonstration. You stand there in the middle, masks on, screens, holding a sign with truth as well. One, depending on how many people are in it, some like quite mellow, you know, somber music playing. And any member of the public that stops, watches, you know, just stops and watches, there'd be other members of the team that would just be like, you know, circling round and just sat back, and then, you know, see them and just go up to that member of the public and go, oh, you know, have you seen any footage like this? Like, do you know why we're here? Like, how does it make you feel watching this sort of thing? And try, like, I thought because I changed for education, the world was going to change for education. Then I went out and talked to the public 10, 15, 20 hours a week, every week for about a year and a half. And it's like, change isn't going to happen like that, because there's a lot of apathetic people out there. There's a lot of people with, you know, you know, this system basically enslaves people and puts like you know, like a weight around their ankles and stops them being able to unleash their true potential. Obviously, like, some people aren't in a position to do it, but then I realised like direct action was a lot more effective way to go. So from basically it's like when XR came about, late 2018. Went along to one of their actions, went along to one of their NVDA sessions. They just talk about the history of non-violence and like civil disobedience and all these sort of things. And I was like, yeah, that suits me. That suits me much better. So and joined then, and then being a freelance activist, I would say, you know, sell myself to the highest bidder.
Sick. Bosh, yeah, there's a few points there that I'd like to go over, because you talked about you reading Sapiens and you felt there's a disconnect between your nature and the nature of supposed human beings. You know, if you look into anthropology, the study of human beings like before recorded history, so to speak, then you do see that humans are deeply empathetic social creatures that's enabled us to survive predators, you know, the elements, and even the Ice Age. And yeah, I think that is inherently human nature. I mean, we look after each other because, I mean, we we came, like, we're made from human beings, so obviously we're going to look after other human beings to keep making other human beings so we can keep contributing to an overall better existence. As a species, that's why we have hands. We're the only animal that can speak to each other, verbally. That's how important communication is, rather than, the violence. So when you don't really feel like you want to do that in your community, I'd put that down to like culture, society, ideology. Maybe you just don't want to interact in those ways, or you feel like you have different values. And you got to think of how much of a nature has changed in that way, or nature, so to speak, because people are deeply violent, selfish, um, violent, and we kill each other all the time, out of desperate needs. This is what happens when like resources are hoarded. It grows fascism, because what anthropology also shows is not only were humans like deeply social, and like you can see this because there's like pottery that can be found in one part of the world and the other part of the world, and that shows these people were trading with each other, rather than warring with each other. But in times with like scarcity, with drought, or when you're being plundered, that's when you're going to become violent. That brings out the worst out of human beings, and that probably is in like intuitive almost, or like a biological cue. But so when you consider those things of how much abundance we could create for everybody, and capitalism inherently hoards resources and promotes an artificial scarcity, so that's why you can see people be scared of that scarcity and want to steal, want to rob, and that's why entire nations do that to smaller nations. So yeah, we've definitely devolved away from a human nature, and I don't blame you for not wanting to take part in what people are telling us is human nature today, which is the evolution of capitalism or class structure society, because that's a load of bullshit. But on Cowspiracy, yeah, I've seen that, and I think most people who see that are deeply moved by it. It does seem revolutionary, actually, because of just how little information there was previously about that. I think it even goes, doesn't it show even like the farmers in McDonald's, how they're tied by contracts where they can't actually farm on their land, how they literally either do what like McDonald's or somebody else says, or they get the farm taken off them, and that's like the whole lives. Um, so there's loads of aspects to it, and it's deeply well researched, and I'd always recommend everybody to go out and watch that. But not everybody will be as moved as you were, which is why you're here today, because obviously you did something about it. So when you're doing those things, and you could do these protests, you could do these arts, or you could do these actions, you end up getting arrested. Don't you think that's utterly, absolutely absurd and silly and a waste of your life? That's what some people would say. Is that something you've heard before?
I don't think I've heard it expressed with those words before. But yeah, maybe in general, some people are saying that, and I suppose I get the logic where they're coming from, but I would say I primarily will be coming from a place of ignorance, and ignorance is probably seems like quite a strong word, but every single person on the planet is ignorant. Like on a scale of knowing everything, scale of knowing nothing, even the greatest minds are closer to knowing nothing. So we're all ignorant about a variety of different things, and that's like totally cool, isn't it? But the problem, I suppose, with the internet is that it gives people a platform to spew their ignorant viewpoints. It's like instead of listening to people that are smarter than you or reading information that you clearly weren't aware of, they'll say these things like getting arrested is a waste of time and blah 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 blah. But I suppose how it's done, how the messaging is said, potentially at times like certain groups. I'm not going to bother naming them, but certain groups maybe dramatize the notion of getting arrested and saying arrested is the only thing, and everything is all about getting arrested and everything like that. And
Why? Why would they say that?
from a strategical sense, is that the judiciary system and the prison police cells, everything, are a pillar of power. So they would have a breaking point. They can't infinitely. They couldn't like imprison or put every single person in this country in a police station. So the idea is that if there's a tipping point below this number, nothing changes, but above this number, everything changes, because they basically get to the point where it's like, we're at breaking point. You've got to do what these people are telling you to do. So that this is the theory. It's like a numbers game, but none of us obviously know what that number is. But for me, on my personal level, not on a strategic level, as a personal level, the times that I've gone out and done something that's led to arrest, I all feel they're fully justified. I all feel like I can justify that in front of either a magistrate's judge or in front of a jury. So that's how I take, say, strength, or that's the logic. That's the logic and the reason I use and go out and do these things. Maybe it makes no difference whatsoever. But so there's a really good book, I think, anyway, called Blueprint for a Revolution. It's by one of the founders of OPPOR, so the Serbian non-violent civil resistance movement in Serbia, and they're bringing down Slobodan Milosevic. I mean, I'm probably pronouncing that horribly, but hopefully people understand what I mean. And within it, one of their tactics that they use is talking about how they'll be compassionate to the police. Like the police, and they went out and did things that got them arrested, acts for civil disobedience, because obviously when you're challenging those in power, it makes sense that they impose laws that restrict effective protest if it's effective. And I think it's ludicrous when people go, well, that's illegal, you can't do that. Well, it's like, well, that's illegal, but coming from the people we're trying to take out of power. So who gives a shit what they have to say? But with OPPOR, basically what they would do, they would be beaten the crap out of. I'm very lucky. I'm a very privileged person, being a white male in Britain. When I get arrested, I'm not facing police brutality or oppression, but many others would. And that's, I would never tell people you must do this and this is the only way. We all have our strengths, so we do what our strengths are, and I'm in a position to do that, so I will do that, but I will never tell anyone that's what they must be doing. We all do what we can.
That's a great point that often goes overlooked.
So, but OPPOR used this tactic of basically being kind, compassionate, empathetic with the police, even though they were being beaten up by them. And they did it because they're trying to. That's another pillar of power, obviously. The police, the law and order, is a way of keeping control over our imaginary capitalist system. It's all just an imaginary thing. The figments of our imagination. And so, but eventually they reckon, because so many people were taking action, eventually it wore them down. And when finally on the day that the majority of people within the movement marched on to I think it's Belgrade, capital of Serbia, the police were guarding lots of the roads that led into the city. But then, when the people got there and spoke to them and they were calm, they were non-violent, they let them all through. They just moved aside. And that, you could put down to this accumulation through their civil rights movement over the last couple of years of them potentially being compassionate with the police. I mean, I don't know, it depends what your definition of compassionate is, because, when you and I got arrested, I was calling them all class traitors. I was asking them if they'd seen Minority Report. I told them you work for the rich and the wealthy, and you're a total disgrace. And that was quite kind, actually. You said a lot more.
I was trying to turn them against each other and everything, because there was that moment where we were in handcuffs, weren't we? We were cuffed in the back of this van. There was 15 minutes to go to the station, and somebody else who had been trying to fucking I've just been calling him a fucking pig and a class trait, and he's part of a gang, and he's like, oh, I didn't join to be in a gang. I'm like, well, you fucking are, aren't you? You see them abuse people and you're not gonna do nothing about it, are you? That's why you're as fucking bad as them and that. And then but he ended up saying to this big fucking dickhead, he ended up saying, you know, they're in handcuffs, so take them out the cuffs because it's 15 minutes and they'll be all right. He said that to us first, so we'll get you out the cuffs. And then he said it to this fucking big bollocks fella, didn't he? And then this big bollocks turned around to this other busy. And he said, "No, we won't take them out the cuffs." He said, "We'll just put the cuffs like on the front." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Don't you respect your own colleague enough to fucking trust his opinion and listen to him? Like, who do you think you are? You're our lass and that." And then he looked at like his colleague and then it was like, "Okay, let's take the cuffs off him." I was like, "Yeah, you fucking best add as well and give us a bottle of water as well." And oh look, I fucking hate them. You're not meant to talk to the pigs and that, obviously, but like we didn't say nothing about like a way. It just literally just a case of fucking hate you, you know.
So so I suppose this is something that potentially I do that's different to others, and that's different to the message that's kind of given. And within most movements, the overall narrative that's given out is just don't talk to the police. And I get it, and like that's a lot, and that's obviously much simpler to not impose, but to educate with. Like don't talk to them. Bang, I won't talk to them. Job done. But there's a difference between talking to them and answering their questions, which can go like, "Fuck off, mate. Why would I tell you that?" It's like, why would I give that information to the bodyguards of the establishment I'm like trying to bring down? It's like, no, it's good. But you can talk at them. You can tell them some home truths. You can tell them, do you know when the police were invented? Do you know why the police were invented? Do you know what your role is? Like, it's quite clear. And like now we're walking around the country grounds, estates, and public footpath. Everything that we're doing and carrying was completely legal. The police were hanging out in a barn with private security on a billionaire's home. I mean, like, this is, if like anyone needs some clear, obvious examples of who the police works for, it's this. I'm sure many people listening have probably had like numerous instances where they could have used the police help because potentially they've been burgled or assaulted or this, that, and the other, and the police do absolutely nothing. But if you're a billionaire, no problem whatsoever. They get all the people there. They're literally just standing there twiddling your own thumbs. And but I mean, fair play to them. They were right. I mean, they looked in my bag, and I've got all the stuff that they thought I was going to have. So good job. But still, I genuinely, I'm not sure about you, but I genuinely want them. I mean, if Oxford Police, you're watching this, press charges against me. I want you to press charges against me. I want to take you to court. I want to cross-examine the police officers who arrested me. Okay. So please do.
This is why Tim's on the show. Like they're not lying. They're deadly serious. Like they've done it before. Like with other judges and that. Like they like one of the sickest actionists in the fucking country. Like look at the confidence. They know what they're doing, and like we're lucky to have them on to learn from this. But so if I can just put in actually and just cover some of the points that you made. I love your humility and saying that you're probably ignorant, and in fact, Marxists say that like knowledge actually comes from practice. So of course you're gonna be ignorant if you haven't done something. Just like if you want to know what an apple tastes like, you've got to bite the apple, and then the apple's changed, you've changed. There's a constant changing process. So for like those groups that you mentioned to say, all these people need to be arrested and that's a good thing because the prisons will be full and then we'll win. That's never been practiced before. So if that had worked in the past, sure, you can do that. But if it hasn't, it's, there's no way of knowing whether that's going to work. I mean, you can try and to see if it works, and then you might fail, but, maybe you've tried, but, ideally you want to fucking get it right, don't you? So love that humility, and it's absolutely true. You know what you know because you've done it, because you've lived it, and not just because you've theorized it. That's not enough. So, yeah. So if you just want to continue, if you had anything in your mind, or I can ask you about any instances that you've actually had within the courts already and how that went.
Yeah, I mean, I can share some some court stories. Yeah. Most of the time that all the times I've ever been arrested, I've like on out with, you know, knowing that that's going to happen. Like if I'm blocking a road, if I'm causing criminal damage by spray painting a building or something, if I'm trespassing, if I'm occupying a building, you know, if I'm covering it in red paint, etc. But there was one time I went out and I wasn't planning on getting arrested. It was during COVID. Animal Rebellion was just doing this march to Buckingham Palace, and they're talking about grouse shooting and the basically like the ethical side of obviously just shooting grouse, and then the environmental side of how it happened, because like for what they do is just burn the land, and then obviously the grouse fly up into the air to escape the fires, and then they shoot them. So so we did a march basically highlighting this, talking about the CO2 emissions and everything. So the march was fine, and then we got to the Buckingham Palace and we put on more of a display. We had like a big sound system, we had some visuals, and the police were just like, actually no, party's over, and like imposing like the COVID fines. You know, this is at the time during the pandemic and lockdown and everything. So it's like, you know, you all got to go home now, or are giving you £100 fine. I'm just like, no way, not now. So police officer comes to me, it's like, you gonna go? It's like, no. It's like, I'm just exercising my democratic right to protest. And he goes like, you know, the COVID thing. And it's like, mate, actually, you're the closest person to me right now. Like, I've got a mask on, I'm making an effort to stand away. Like, you know, actually, you're the most likely person to give me COVID, so can you back off? And I've got like and he goes, you're going to give no, right, so I'm going to issue you a fine. Are you going to give me your name? And I go, obviously not. And he just basically wrestles me to the ground, puts me in handcuffs, and I just like start shouting at him. But anyway, I get to the police station. I've got my PAX free vaporizer on me. It's like this.
How was you feeling during all of this? What what was it like? Was you scared? Was you confident? Was you just too angry at this point that you just had to do it? How was you feeling, if you can remember?
Good, you know, yeah, good.
Good.
Yeah, good. I was like, yeah, I was calling them all idiots. It's like, how dare you? It's like, you know, what are you doing? Like, you know, yeah, just, you know, you like calling them the class traitors, and so I was just literally, mate,
Speaking
like,
truth to power.
so they get me to the station and they search all my stuff and they find my weed vaporizer, so they take that off me, and then they find like a little bit of weed on me. So there you go. After doing the interview and everything, and then I get a letter in the post saying they're pressing charges against me, so I've got to go to the courts for my plea hearing. They dropped. They're not even. They didn't even bother with the £100 COVID fine. They dropped that, but they just pursued the cannabis charges. So went along to court for that. Magistrate just by myself. Walk into the dock. Judge is like, blah 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 blah. How do you plead, guilty or not guilty? And I go to him. The only reason I am here today is because I'm under duress. If I don't show up today, you will send your little minions in their fancy dress costumes to come and kidnap me, hold me hostage, and come and bring me to court. It's totally ludicrous and a waste of my time, your time, the taxpayers' money to be putting this on. Like, cannabis is a plant. It's a literal plant. If there's any religious people in the courtroom today, your God created this wonderful drug. It helps in so many ways. It cures my depression. And the judge cuts me off right there and goes, Tim, I can see where this is going. So I'm just gonna. You got two options. You can plead not guilty and go to a magistrate's judge. Which means, if for anyone not listening, sort of like this mansplaining or something, but potentially maybe some people don't know the difference. But like a magistrate's judge is just a courtroom where it will just be the judge alone. You present your information to the judge, and the judge will decide if you're guilty or not guilty, and if you're guilty, what punishment, whatever you'll give you. You can. So he goes. You can do that you can go to the magistrate's court, your trial, or you can go to the Crown Court. And the Crown Court is when you present your information to the jury. And the juries are the ones that make the decision if you're guilty or not guilty. And if you're guilty, then it's up to the judge what punishment you get. So I'm like, Crown Court, like, yes, please, take that every day of the week. So I was like, I go out like skipping, going, this is great, like, I can't wait for this. You're actually going to put a jury Crown Court trial, which costs about 20 grand, for like barely a joint's worth of weed. Maybe 2 joints worth of weed at most. So I'm calling them all idiots. Like all the other people in the room, like obviously like hate me, like they don't I suppose they don't really experience someone that like shows such little respect for the court systems, and like the whole like standing up saying sir, madam, whatever it is. I like sit down when I talk to judges most of the time. And then so I get that, and then got my trial date ready to go after the jury to apologise for them for being like taken into this for a little bit of weed. I mean, if you want to punish me for smoking a joint, that just basically makes my life a little easier. It's up to you. Do it. It's hilarious. I mean, if you ever want to learn more, I'm always happy to come on your show and educate you about this all. So then we arranged basically later that day I came on, and then the way he does it, he's like he's very he speaks a lot. Like, what's the point? It's so silly. Like if you've had someone to come and be interviewed, you listen to the interviewer, but like no, like these people just want to hear their own voice, and they they interrupt you quite a lot. So and we touched upon a variety of aspects of it. I basically just started off saying like what gives he's like what gives you the right to pour milk on the floor, and it's like basically like well it's morally reprehensible, it's morally unjustifiable to profit from the exploitation of someone else. So this industry belongs in the past. We've tried the educational approach, it's not working, so we're taking the direct action to make change. The majority of people on this planet are lactose intolerant. Like humans aren't designed to be drinking the milk of another species. Like cow's milk is perfectly designed, and through natural evolution, to get a baby cow into a big cow as quickly as possible. That's the point of it. It's like 4 times stronger in all the compared to like human breast milk, and so the dairy is responsible for causing like prostate cancer, breast cancer, osteoporosis, all these other health complications, and it's more prevalent in like people who aren't white. Like never really know like the politically correct way of like saying there's so many ways, but basically people who aren't white, they are much more likely to face all these health risks. Our government knows this, our health like ministers know this, and the science is completely clear on that, out there, but yet still given out, like it's given in schools, it's given in prisons, it's given in so many institutions that the government are responsible, and they're giving it to children, they're giving it to people potentially from very deprived backgrounds where they need like food stamps, and the children need to be fed in school, but they're giving them something that's actually dangerous for them. So like I said at the moment in time on the thing, I said dairy inherently is a racist drug. I mean, I didn't really mean to use the word drug, but technically actually the impacts it has on you is like the way a drug works. They
Just
say
a chemical, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like I didn't mean to use the word drug, but anyway, but calling it racist, everyone like on Twitter, like people are just like freaking out and just calling me the most moronic, stupid person there is. I have had some people just say like I'm tokenizing like black people, and I'm just like bringing them into it to try and like shift like a narrative into one that like I don't know, like potentially I'm trying to make my argument stronger, or trying to just like use their struggle as a way of like trying to end this, and that is genuinely not my goal in the slightest. I would never ever want to do that, and I do genuinely apologise to anyone that has actually caused offence to.
No, let me interrupt you there, because I don't think there's any reason for you to feel sorry or offence, because my understanding of the historical reasons why milk could be said to be racist once given out to people who were more susceptible to be lactose intolerant and harmed by it, is because in the West, white people have genuinely consumed milk for hundreds or even over 1,000 years more than people in the East. So, like, our biology is generally over hundreds or thousands of generations become more tolerant to milk and to cow's milk. And whereas, in Eastern cultures, it's just not in the diet, so they're not going to be as tolerant to it. It's the same case that, like, if we were to go travel back into time, if we to travel back in time 500 years and have some coffee, that would be like crack cocaine, because even that, because we've even become more tolerant to that over time. Like just like you get tolerant to weed, you need more weed to get more stoned. That's what's happened with milk, and other drugs like sugar and coffee. That's my understanding, and you were right to say that. It's just a, biological or geographic factor, so to speak.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. But I mean, but yeah, this was like a 20-minute interview, and it was like one little section of it, and I just can handle myself and everything. But yeah, it has just been for the last like couple of days or so. He, my Twitter, my Twitter notifications are just I had them
Blowing up.
so high, and it's just like it's basically just like, yeah, everyone calling me the most like dick, and then they're like, they're thinking I'm calling milk racist just because it's white stuff. Like, this is a sort of level of like the people that are leaving these comments. But just the way my mind works, like, I'm pretty certain I am autistic. So like when I see comments, that it's like, that's just a load of shit, really ignorant. I just feel like an urge, like it's like this itch in the back of my head, like just have to respond. And like, so maybe I should take some time off social media. But the point I do these sort of shows, maybe say these sort of things, it's like I'm trying to give across some information that people might not be aware of. Like, knowledge is power. Like in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. And like, being willfully ignorant about something, and then like all these people basically don't really know about the subject, and yet they're all sharing their opinion on it without actually having a truer understanding of like the full reality of it. So it's just really frustrating. But I suppose that's just the way social media is and the way social media works.
Uh, I mean, again, they're not necessarily sharing their opinion. They're sharing the opinions of some corporate lobbyist who's fucking, told them that this is how it is, and they're picking up on it. And you've got to realize, while you're putting yourself out there to speak to people and educate people, you're speaking to new people all the time. And like I said, we are social creatures. That's what we do. That's what we thrive for. Try and learn from each other and better ourselves. But these people haven't been doing that all their lives. They've been going to work, speaking to the fucking workmate, speaking to somebody on the phone when they get home, and then chatting shit on Facebook. So these people, if they can have an opportunity to come online, say milk is racist because it's white, and get 8 likes on Twitter, that's dopamine for days for them. Do you know what I mean? That is like heroin. So that's the difference. They're out there for social validation, and it's like it's sad, really. I mean, obviously, this is why people should like they need socialism, because people shouldn't be like trying to gang up on people just for a fucking laugh. And that is ultimately like what like playground behavior, isn't it? Where if they were really concerned, or they really knew it wasn't true, or they'd say it isn't racist because of this reason, because of that reason, but it does none of that. It's just people trying to get fucking likes on social media. That's how I perceive it. And like I would um like ask you for your own mental health to just consider who is genuinely trying to engage with you or have a discussion, and who's just trying to get fucking likes. You know what I mean? There is a difference there. And like you said, you are getting those followers, doing that. So just bear that in mind, that it's not going to waste. You are going to get a following, and I do hope that you continue to like build your platform, especially if you want more people to join Animal Rebellion. So that's one mechanism to do that, and also share your results, because people don't just want to do things or risk arrest for something pointless. If you can say, look, we've done this, we achieved this, that's what people need to hear. That's what we need to learn from. That's why I'm telling people to go follow you, so that they can see just how much of a difference we can make by direct action. And even if it's shutting down a weapons factory for a few days, or just absolutely fucking up, a milk company's supply, and makes them scratch their head to think, oh, we're in a bit of a pickle here. And also, them share it on the news, and then everybody else. Eventually, people will stop trying to police each other, and people will start policing the police and policing the state, because that's what that's where inevitably education will lead us to fucking sentience. We should be that already, though. Right. Is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. Nice one for having me on. It's good to catch up. It's like this is the first time we've seen each other since we were in the back of that police van, or like waiting outside that police station to go in.
Yeah.
Well, was it? You said you had a long journey. Like your journey was like pretty hectic, was it?
You wouldn't, like, you're not gonna believe this, right? So I get out at like fucking 2:30 in the morning in Oxfordshire, right? So where is 15 minutes in a car going like fucking 20, 30 miles an hour? I had £10.20 to me fucking name, right? And no phone. Never been there in my life. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? How the fuck am I getting home? So like I get out the busy station and just see these like fucking a couple of girls and lads just like going home from like a night out and that, and I've got like my big fucking sack of fucking evidence on me back with all my fucking coat and that in, and like what's happening? I'm like, look, I've fucking just got out of fucking the busy station. Said like I'm only a political activist. Like, how the fuck do you get to the train station from here? And they're like, oh, it's a bad fucking 2 hour walk and that. I'm like, what? And they're like, it was like, it's in that direction. I was like, well, fuck me. I was like, well, I'm gonna have to go because I've fucking gotta go home with, like, I don't know where I am and that. So like, I'm heading down towards there, and then like I'm just basically walking around this tiny little fucking village, like trying to figure out what direction they said and that. Ask somebody in a garage like directions, and they're like, yeah, it's like fucking 2 miles, no, 2 hours that way and that. I'm like, fuck off. They're like, yeah, and so basically I walk up to this taxi driver in this tiny little fucking like fucking Tory town, yeah, and I'm like, yo, mate. I said, look, how much is it gonna take to get me to Oxford train station? He said, about £30. I said, well, I've got fucking £10.20, and I fucking don't live round here, and I've got no other way of getting home. I need to get a fucking taxi there, and he was like, don't know. And then there was this kid next to me, and he's going like, aren't you taking me in that? And he's like, go ahead, you just both get in. I'm like, fucking nice and that. But he's like, I need the money up front. I'm like, fucking take it. So I just fucking throw it at him, get back in the fucking van. And then like he's dropping this other kid off, and then like, but he's going the same direction as the fucking train station. So I end up at the train station at like fucking 3 in the morning. No money, no phone. The train station's not open till like fucking 6 or something, so I've still got like fucking 3 hours and that. And I'm like, oh, what am I? How am I getting home and that? I'm starving as well because I haven't eaten. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Thinking I wish I'd have fucking nailed it at the can before we got fucking nicked at least. And then so I'm just like, I asked someone, I was like, fucking said like, when's the train station open? And he's like, the fucking board's there, so look at the board. I'm like, oh fine, I'll fucking find out myself. And then like yeah, my fucking train is on there, and then but like again, still got no money, and there's like you've got to pay at the fucking tickets in Oxford Avenue to get through the barrier. So I was like, oh, heavy this. Literally haven't got a penny. And then I like see this bird, yeah, and I'm like, excuse me, love. I said, like, look, I'll stay away from you and that. Like, I genuinely like, I'm fucking not from round here. Like, I'm a political activist. I just got out of fucking a police station. And that, can I use your phone or can you message someone on Twitter for me to tell them I'm fucking stuck at Oxford train station with no money at all in that, and I don't know how I'm getting home. And she was like, yeah, yeah, sound. Well, she never said sound because she wasn't a scouser, but she was like, yeah, yeah. Uh, and then she's like, she sent this tweet out for me. I was like, oh, thank you so much and that. And then she's like, it's cool. She said, I'm just going over there for like 20 minutes. So and I'll be back and I'll let you know what they said. and like, oh boss, thanks and that. And then just like pacing backwards and forwards, just fucking chain smoking me bifters. Just thinking of everything that went on in that. I was exhausted because thank you for that book, by the way. I was gonna save it till the end, but I was exhausted because I just stayed up. I never got any sleep in the cell. I just I just read that Lost in Work. It's there. I'll show you it. So I was in a like busy station. I was just reading this fucking Lost in Work book. I've got 86 pages through it. It's like past halfway. And I just hemming that. It was good. You didn't tell me it was written by a freaking Marxist, did you? But it is. So that was fucking sick. And then, that was my bookmark. Remember your rights while being detained and that. So that's my bookmark. I'll hold on to that. Yeah, I'll finish up on that. So basically, I was exhausted, yeah, needing a sleep, and I was thinking I'm gonna end up fucking homeless here. I was like, I know it. And then this taxi driver come up to me, and he was like, "Yo," he was like, "What train you getting?" I said, "Fuck knows." I said, "I hope I'm getting the train to Liverpool, but like I've got no money and I'm fucking stuck here, and I'm a fucking activist, and the police have just let me out here, and I don't even know where I am." And he was like, "That's heavy. But by the way, there's no trains on today either because of a strike." I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Well, there's only a couple, but I don't think the one going to Liverpool's on." I was like, "Oh, look, if I've got to wait all this time just to get told like there isn't even a train, or what is going on in that?" And then he was like, "There's coach stations down there." And I was like, "Look, I've got no money, like at all." You know what I mean? So he's like, heavy in that. And then I can't remember what happened, but I think because I said like I'm a political activist or something, he said like, what kind of work? I said like, "Have you ever heard of Palestine Action?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, of course I've heard of Palestine Action. Fucking, they shut down Elba." I was like, "Yeah, that's it and that." And then he was just like, "Yeah, fucking." Yeah, 'cause, I'm a Muslim and that, and I was like, "Ah, salam alaikum," and that, and he was like, "Oh, boss," and he's like, he was like, "Boss work, I hope you fucking, keep it up and that, fucking Ishmael," and it's just like, hell yeah. And he said, "Look, mate," he said, "I'm gonna come back in an hour. If you're still here, I'll bring you some food and a drink and that." I was like, Ishmael. And it's like fucking, oh yeah. So it's like, look, I am starving. Um, so yeah, and again, I had never had a fucking penny to my name. And then like because I was there for hours, like at this train station for hours, yeah, there's like other people waiting now. And there's like this other kid. There's like basically like a couple of people who've been on a night out. That girl who like gave me who like sent that fucking tweet. And then like this other fella who like look, in the end there was like five of us who were like best mates at this train station, just fucking talking about our life stories and that. Honest to God, it was sound, we were all just like smoking together and that. And and then, but like, cause we were talking, yeah. Uh, it's mad how this happened actually because it was like the timing of it because I've been speaking for so long, and this fella who was being speaking to, he said like, "Have you literally got no money?" I said, "Mate, I've got fuck all in that." And he said, "Hold on." Opened his wallet and gave me 90 quid.
Oh.
I was like, "What?" I was like, but I needed it. So it wasn't even like I could have been humble and being like, "Nah, you keep hold of that," because I wouldn't have got home. You know what I mean? So I needed it as well. So it's like I don't know what to say other than like thank you. And I said like, can I have your bank details? And when I got the money, I'll fucking send you it like fucking right back. Defo and that obviously like I thank you so much. I need it and that. And then the same time he's give me that, the taxi drivers pulled up, whistled to me. I went over and he gave me a fucking Mackey's breakfast with two fucking muffins. No, two Mackey's breakfast with two waters, four ciggies and a tenner, and said, "Get yourself another scram with that tenner." I was like, I was just saying, look, Oxford is the best city in the world. I was like, look, I'll kill for Oxford. I'll fight for Oxford. I was like, this is the best city, and then like everybody was like, yeah, it is, and then I was like, it fucking is. So like I ended that. So the fella who ended up giving me that fucking 90 quid, my train ticket was like fucking 84 or something anyway. So the fella who gave me that, I ended up on a train with him until Birmingham New Street, and then just went me fucking own way home there.
That's long. That's super long.
So yeah, I mean, we have got to count on people, because it's us people versus the fucking state and the state forces and the pig class. And you know, there's some examples there, you know, from your jury to people, you know, giving me funds home and feeding me. You know, just hearing that I do good work. You know, that's what's going to change the world, and we have to have hope, not just in ourselves to do the right things, but also in others to see it and support us, because they then maybe might not be in the position to do so. So yeah, I really believe in people. I believe in the future, and yeah, we are gonna win. It's just a matter of time. So on that, Tim, yeah, thank you so much again for this book. I do hope to return it to you, when hopefully we've got something to celebrate and something's organised where we can party like nobody's business. When we shut down a factory or anything like that, hopefully we get back together, we celebrate, and I'll give you this back. Um, because yeah, it's really good. Appreciate that. Appreciate your time. Thank you for all of your service, for the people, for animals. One of my favorite episodes that I ever recorded was where we never talked so much about Marxism in particular, but we talked about, you know, the fauna and the flora of the planet, and you know, just how important and precious, you know, all life is. And that could maybe extend beyond the stars. We have to, and if we're ever going to find out if we're alone in this universe, we've got to fucking survive, and we've got to thrive. And capitalism is not going to get us there.
No, it's gonna it will speed up the destruction. It's basically the catalyst for.
I'm sat here now, sweating me little tits off,
Yeah,
and it's just a fucking start.
yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna get outside and do some screen printing and put on some music. I think that's how I'm gonna spend the rest of my day. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. I could talk to you all day. I'm sure we could non-stop talk, and yeah, wonderful to be able to like catch up. Like, you know, we don't. I suppose we've only really spent an amount of hours, not exactly that many hours in each other's company. You know, like that of respect and appreciation for each other. I appreciate everything that you're doing, form that you have, and the messages that you're trying to get out to people, and hopefully this ecology of change and tactics, and we all do our strengths and the way through revolution.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm going to continue to do what I do because people like you deserve it. The listeners deserve it. We all deserve it. So it's just some of the work, the necessary work that we need to do. And it's also work that people have been doing, you know, before our time, but you might not have heard about them because it was before the information age, so it never got publicized. So it's important to keep publicizing, you know, important work. And we're going to continue to do that. So, Tim, please just send us all the links that you like on the show notes. I'll get them in, and you'll also hear from me, or you'll find yourself tagged in the MP3 version of the podcast too, which I hope is something that you'll appreciate as a good memory, and hopefully something that you'll be part to take part in, just as I am to participate in it with you.
Yeah, very much so. I'll send you a message on Twitter. I'll send you the links to all the various sort of like social media sites. For whatever reason.
Gosh, okay. So I'll love you and leave you now. And as always, workers and lumpen of the world, unite.
Night.